Well, I guess I've been doing my research. I've been watching TV commercials. Have you seen one of my favorite? It's the Direct TV commercial. The most recent one goes something like this. You see a guy sitting in his chair on the second floor, and it says, when you wait forever for the cable guy, you get bored. When you get bored, you start staring out windows. When you start staring out windows, you start seeing things you shouldn't see. And the camera pans down, and the guy's neighbor's being stuffed in a body bag in the back of a trunk by the mob. And then it keeps going. When you see things that you should not see, you need to vanish. When you need to vanish, you fake your own death. When you fake your own death, you dye your eyebrows. When you dye your eyebrows, you attend your funeral as a guy named Phil Shifley. Don't attend your funeral as a guy named Phil Shifley. Get rid of cable and upgrade to Direct TV. Well, I'm not going to go to work as a salesman for Direct TV, and that's not what this reflection is about. I don't personally care which television provider you use. Truth is, we probably all watch too much of it. However, I do think these commercials are hilarious. For a long time, I've watched their commercials that are all following the same theme. And I've laughed when I watch them. But more importantly, every time I hear one, I keep hearing the spiritual truth in each of these commercials. Now, I know you think I'm crazy, but I'm not, at least not in this case. For example, here's a commercial or two that I could make that would sound a whole lot like those. When you stay at home instead of serving your country like you're supposed to, you get bored. When you get bored, you start walking around on your rooftop. When you start walking around on your rooftop, you see things like you shouldn't see. And the camera pans away to a guy's neighbor sunbathing or taking a bath on the balcony below. And then it says when you see things you shouldn't see, you invite your neighbor's wife up for a drink. When you invite your neighbor's wife up for a drink, you have an affair with your neighbor's wife. When you have an affair with your neighbor's wife, she gets pregnant. When she gets pregnant, you have to have her husband killed to try to cover it up. When he gets killed, you're finally exposed for being a bad king. Don't be exposed for being a bad king. Serve God where you're supposed to and stay off the roof. You like that commercial? Sound familiar? It's the story of King David in the Bible. Here's my present day commercial. I could make this one today. When you're a first round draft pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you decide to celebrate a little too much by drinking. When you drink, you decide to drink too much. When you decide to drink too much, you don't have a sense enough to know not to drive. When you don't have enough sense to know not to drive drunk, you do it anyway, and you get pulled over by the cops. When you get pulled over by the cops and you've had too much to drink, you get arrested for drunk driving. When you get arrested for drunk driving and you're a first-round NFL draft choice, it makes the headlines of every major sports show in America. When you make the headlines of sports shows all over the world for being drunk driving, it makes you look like an idiot. Don't look like an idiot. Don't drink and drive. Well, I think maybe you're starting to get my point. What I love about these Direct TV commercials is that they show the correlation between the decisions I make and the consequences they produce. In other words, if you take one action, there is a result that follows that typically produces another reaction. Life, in a way, is a chain reaction based upon the decisions and the steps we take. If you don't want certain results, then don't make certain decisions or take certain steps. The Bible says in Romans 6:23 that the product of sin is death. The Bible also says in Galatians 6:7, don't be misled. You cannot mock God. You can't mock the justice of God. You will always harvest what you plant. Hosea said in Hosea 10:13, you have planted wickedness and harvested evil. You've eaten the fruit your lies have produced. Job said, Job 4:8, my experience shows that those who plant trouble and cultivate evil will harvest the same. The great apostle Paul wrote in Galatians 6:8, those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. The point of all of this is that we need to be careful regarding the decisions we make and the actions we take. Each decision and action has a repercussion. Decisions are not isolated incidents. What we do today affects tomorrow. The choices I make now affect my life later. The good news is there's a corresponding promise to that as well. In the same verse in Galatians 6:8, I just read it, the last part says, but those who live to please the Spirit will reap everlasting life from the Spirit. So if I choose to fill my life with God's principles, it'll pay rich dividends in the end. Well, guys, you can keep cable or you can get DirecTV. Doesn't matter to me. However, we do need to make sure that we don't sow oats that'll come back to reap a harvest of trouble for us. Today, be careful about the actions you take and the decisions you make. Here's a thought for today. What I do eventually catches up with me. Here's a great prayer to pray. God, help me to learn to see the correlation between my actions and thoughts and my life in the future. Help me choose today to make the right decisions that will produce the right results that you and I both want for the future. God bless you. Have a great day.